You're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's time for Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Tony. We continue on doing this in this way with the pandemic going on, who knows how long for, but I think around the world people are becoming accustomed to doing things in a different way, and we're obviously doing our Tech Talks in a different way. It'll be great one day when I finally get back to the studio to sit there opposite you and talk to you, but for the moment we'll continue on this way.
Yes, well, the virtual space isn't too bad though, is it, Matthew?
It's not too bad, and probably from a technology perspective, what we're doing is well suited to being able to be, I suppose, delivered through technology. There are some things that it's much harder to deliver through technology, and we might talk about some of those things today that are a little bit harder to deliver through technology.
Yep, and the world's going to be a very different place after all this is over, and I think technology is going to have a large part to play.
Yeah, and I don't really know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be different. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah, we can all be certain of that.
Yeah.
Now, virtual barbers are here to help us out of a hairy situation. E-barbers?
Well, this is one of those things that I did allude to, the fact that it's a bit harder to do some things virtually, and getting a haircut virtually, most people would say, well, that's not going to happen. But with this pandemic, people are coming up with all sorts of innovative solutions. So there's a new website called youprobablyneedahaircut.com. It's an American website, and you can book an appointment and you can have a real barber at the other end of your computer or on your screen, and the barber will give you some advice about how to cut your hair. Now, it's a bit tricky cutting your own hair, maybe around the back of your head, around the ears, gets a bit tricky. So you probably would do it with someone else in your household, a partner or a child that you might have to help you out. And you can sit there and you pay money, not a lot of money, but you pay money for a session, a 20-minute session or a 45-minute session, to actually have that barber give you some advice about how to cut your hair and how to get something that might look like a haircut you got when you went to the real barber. So this is one of those things that I think I don't know whether this will be a change in the world ongoing, but for the moment, this is one of those physical things that's tried to move over into the virtual space.
Well, keep an eye on that one. It sounds interesting. Now, if you work from home, you may miss the atmosphere of the office, mightn't you?
You may do. For people that have been used to going into the office for many, many years, it may be something they don't even realise, but suddenly they don't have the sounds of the office. And again, this innovation, humans are so good at coming up with different ideas. There's another website being created called imisstheoffice.eu. And when you go to that site, you can click play and you can just hear some random background noises, snippets of conversation, people basically having phones ringing, or just some little photocopier printer type noises, things that you would hear in an office situation. Even some of the annoying sounds when people sit there and they're talking and their lips get a bit dry and they smack their lips together, those sort of noises. But you can actually go further than that, and they've got an office layout on screen and you can go and click on certain things. You go and click on the water cooler and you hear water filling into a cup. Click on the printer or the photocopier, you hear those noises of a printer or a photocopier. Click on one of the chairs and you hear that sort of noise that might sound a little bit like someone doing something that smells a bit when they sit into a chair. So there's those sort of ones. And you can even go as far as if your office is one of those ones that likes to introduce some different gaming devices, you can actually hear a game of ping pong going in the background. So the idea is to try and get you feeling more comfortable in your home environment. And even though people are loving the idea they're not commuting to work, they're not having to get as dressed up for work. I mean, many people doing video conferencing put a nice shirt on and might have a pair of shorts on, for example. The things that people miss is that human interaction and those noises in the background. So I think this is the idea. It's probably trying to help some mental health from some of those people working remotely.
Well, I just hope it's not a time-wasting exercise that people do in the office, trying to replicate that maybe.
Well, you may be right. Let's face it, people have got a lot more time now, Tony, because they're not commuting to work each day, so maybe a little bit of time wasting listening to some noises in the office is okay.
Yeah, it might be a good idea. Now, we can't go out for a leisurely drive during the pandemic, so what do you suggest about people that are really labouring? What do you think?
Well, as we know, there are people who are being fined for going out for a leisurely drive, and we saw that situation down in Victoria, which has now been reversed, where an L-plater was out doing some driving training, and I thought that was quite a good use of her time in that particular situation, but they got fined for out wasting time. Now, again, that was overridden, but you just can't go out for a general drive at the moment. So there's a few different ways I thought you might be able to address it. So games is obviously one of the main ones. So Forza Horizon, for example, these are games where you're normally racing on racetracks, but Forza Horizon has actually got the ability for you to go driving in different situations, different environments, including the Australian outback. So the idea there is you go for a nice leisurely drive via your computer through different scenes, different situations you might want to see. We talked previously about some virtual tourism, and we've done that in a previous week, but this might be a way of doing some virtual tourism in relation to driving rather than just flying somewhere. A Gran Turismo Sport is very much a driving game, and that's a racing game. So again, you might get your fix on doing some racing and actually getting behind the wheel and driving like a maniac, where you're not going to hurt anyone else or not going to get booked for speeding. So that might be a way of getting your fix of driving. And there's a few other different ones. There's one called The Drive. Now, this is one put out by Audi, and it's basically a 4-hour-long video of people going out for a drive. And so if you might miss that road trip, some people might love driving on some of our regional roads, going for a nice leisurely drive and having a coffee at the other end. You can sit back and watch The Drive for 4 hours, then grab a coffee from your kitchen and sit back and watch another version of The Drive for another 4 hours coming back. So this one's focused around the central tablelands of New South Wales, but again, I'm sure there'll be new ones coming out. A couple other quick ones, guided meditation. Harley Davidson, the motorcycle company, has come up with one with guided meditation. And the last one is one that's put out by one of the car drive magazines. And it's basically an idea where you can submit your concepts that you'll do when you come back out of isolation. So basically the idea is, I've been dreaming about doing a drive along the Great Ocean Road or a drive through the Blue Mountains, wherever it might be. And the idea is that you submit those ideas and people will just have some discussions around there. So that's more a thought process, more so than something physically happening on a computer screen. Again, all of these ways are just things that people are doing to try and work out different ways to get their driving fix. And I like the innovation of some of these people coming up with some of these ideas.
Yes, well, boredom will certainly drive a lot of innovation in this coronavirus period, for sure.
I was waiting for it, Tony. It didn't take too long through before we dragged that bad pun out.
Now, it's a good pun. LG reveals the name for its upcoming phone. It's the LG Velvet. Now, what's so great about the LG Velvet?
Well, we don't know yet, Tony. This is the interesting thing. We don't know the release date. We don't know the exact details of the phone. We don't know the price point, but we do know that LG has changed their naming convention rather than go through a number naming convention, which is what most other manufacturers do. iPhone 11, Samsung Galaxy S20, those sort of naming conventions are fairly common with operating systems, with phones, but LG is trying to capture the feel of their phone. And so Velvet is their new phone coming out, and that's the feel that you'll have, the essence of the phone. It's fair to say that I'm not that excited about the concept of the LG Velvet. LG doesn't have a large market share, and there might be a whole range of reasons for that. Samsung and Apple are very strong in the smartphone space. They're trying to break that down with the LG Velvet. I'm not sure that the Velvet name will be enough of an excitement concept to be able to get people to break away from those two main manufacturers. But LG figure they've got to do something. They weren't winning the game with a numbering scheme, so let's try something a bit different. Good luck to them, and I'm not convinced it'll work, but what I do like to see is different companies competing to try and drive better products for the end consumer.
Okay. Well, we've been listening to Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5. Thanks very much, Mathew.
My pleasure, Tony.